All right, so now that we've gone ahead and had a quick look at the keying group, let's look a little bit more in depth at the keying group, right? The full body and the body part, but also let's start looking at the pinning. The best way to find what pinning does is to basically set it on one of the effectors. I can set it from the character control window. I can also set it in the attribute editor, right? I would set it here. But it's much easier to do it from the character control window. The icon is that little pin that we know from the graph editor animation curves, right? So it's really easy recognizable. So I'll go ahead and go to body part and select my hip. And I have, obviously there's a TR here, so which means this effector is pin. I'll start moving my hip, and the first thing that we see is that this effector is free to roam around, while this one is pinned down and doesn't move, right? So the solver really says, okay, I'm not moving that effector at all, while the other one is completely free. I'll just undo that, right? And I'll do the same thing in full body. Right away, we'll see the different solve that we get. Right away we see in full body, Maya has gone ahead and rotated the spine joints. Right? So let's just undo and go back to body part. And see, the solve is very different. If I'm in body part, the keying group will kind of take over the pinning, right? Because I can pull it and the effector will be pulled even though it's pinned. While in full body, when I pull it, the solver will give me a different solution because it's in full body mode, and therefore everything can be rotated. So because everything can be rotated, everything can be keyed. While in body part, right, I only have my hip selected here. So it's really important to know that when you do your pinning, you also look at your keying group. Everything kind of works together. Another example of this is if I just select my effector here, and it's not pinned right now, but I'll go ahead and pin it, and I'll rotate it up. I'll show my joint, right? So I'll go to selection mode, and sorry, I'll do this again. I'll go up and I'll set a keyframe. Okay? And I'll put the reach translation and reach rotation to 1. Basically, when you see the reach translation and reach rotation, think about it as if there's a little FK here and a little IK here, right? We're used to the IK blend in Maya. We're used to the FK IK in the Windows. You got to think about it. It's the same thing. It's just that FK is 0, and the IK is 1. So the UI doesn't give us that, but I find that once I just have to think about it that way, and suddenly it makes a lot of sense, right? So because I've set it to 1, my solution, so my skeleton here, is obviously on the effector. If I select my joint and I'll rotate it, you'll see, right, that although I'm selecting and rotating the FK, it's only affecting the elbow, right? That wrist really stays where it is, right? It stays as much as it can. Sometimes it pulls a little bit away, right? If I want to make sure that I get this hand solution, I will simply unpin this and unpin it and set it to 1, set it to 0, so that I get my full IK solution. So now the elbow and everything below is also in FK mode. If I just go back, right, to 1, and one thing we also want to look at is the pull, right? I'll just make it go higher. Right? So that really there's no real solution for this, for Maya to give me. because we see the elbow and the wrist is definitely away from the effector. This is when the pull comes into play. Right away, once you start pulling, you see that my skeleton here, so my output, all moves. And so this effector now takes over everything. So that's the pull here. Okay? So now that we've looked at this, we're going to start looking at some of the options. And after that, we'll be doing the retargeting.